I don't know what this thing is. Okay, I know what it is. It's a tri-scale, but I just don't know what it is. Okay, so I know it's the sigil for Hjaalmarch. I just don't know why it is. Most other whole sigils in this game make sense, and you can deduce relatively easily what's going on here. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Now right off the bat, it's very possible that the creators just made a design that was cool and that fit the character of the hold. But that's not good enough for me. So we're going to do what we do best and overthink the shit out of these. Starting with the rift. Two golden daggers crossed with each other on purple. Now how could one interpret this? My first assumption is that the daggers represent the swashbuckling, cutthroat nature of the Thieves Guild that operates within Riften, and the purple represents the shadows from which they do their business. But this is making a lot of assumptions. Like that the Thieves Guild helped in the founding of Riften, and that the sigil has been the same since its inception and never had to endure any kind of rebranding or anything. There's no history of any sigils being rebranded that I could find, nor is it stated concretely when the Thieves Guild was founded. All we know is that it was in Hammerfell years before 2E 549. So for the sake of consistency, let's just assume that none of the sigils have ever changed. Next, let's look at the rift geographically. If you keep going east of Riften, where are you going to be? Morrowind. And we all know that the Nords and the Dunmer have been known to cross blades with each other. Just something to think about. But if the hold sigils do change, then I'm willing to bet that this guy has something to do with it. Next we're going to go to Haafingar, a wolf on red. The connection that most players make is that it has to do with Potema, the Wolf Queen. But if we stick with our assumption that sigils have always been the same, then this is just a coincidence. Haafingar existed before Solitude, which was built in the second era, and Potema was born in the third. But what predates both of these things? The Empire, which is red. And as we learned in my last video, the wolf represents the goddess Mara, which is also in the Imperial Pantheon. I think. There's so many pantheons and cults, it's hard to keep track. So anyways, both sigils are red, both Skyrimmers and Imperials worship Wolf Mara, but there's no temple dedicated to Mara in Solitude, so maybe I'm just talking out my ass here. The wolf is probably more or less meant to represent a sort of pack mentality that the Empire has, saying that they're strong together, but they're still always going to be a top dog, aka the Emperor. See, we didn't overthink that at all. Next hold, Eastmarch. A bear on blue, home of the Stormcloaks and the Rebellion. First assumption, bears are all over the place up there, and it's also really cold up there, and bears like the cold. That's probably it. So it could be that simple. However, we all know that Ulfric is known as the Bear of Markarth because he reconquered the place. So he's called the Bear Markarth because he's from the bear, not because he created the bear. Am I making any sense here?
Take pity on an old madman!
In the Nordic pantheon, the bear represents Sune. Sune is a god of trials against adversity. Windhelm was founded by Ysgramor, and he faced a lot of adversity in the forms of genociding the elves and giants, and then founded the most racist city in Skyrim.
They're parasites.
So yeah, that all holds up. Next we'll look at the Pale, a star on black. Dawnstar. Star. Black. Bada boom, bada bing. Dawnstar is a port city. Port equals sailors. Sailors use the stars to navigate, and this star is suspiciously compass-shaped. I really think that's all there is with this one. Moving on, Whiterun Hold. A horse on gold. Gold like the plains of Whiterun, and plains that are perfect for horses, and this one is another self-explanatory one to me. And yeah, I know you're gonna say they're just ripping off Rohan, but I mean, come on, originality is dead. Next, hold the Reach, a ram's head on green. I hate to say it, but it just might be because there's lots of goats in this part of the map. Let me know if you have any other ideas. Next, Falkreath, a stag on blue. Again, not much over to think. This area is very dense with forests, ideal for deer and elk or other ungulates. It is the hold where you encounter an aspect of piercing in the form of a stag, so there's that. Deer do have their place in mythology, usually to symbolize a connection to the supernatural in some way, and there is a massive graveyard in Falkreath, so there's that. Winterhold hold, a crown on gray. Finally something different. I didn't know that Winterhold was Skyrim's original capital and the original landing site of the Atmora. So they're keeping that sigil to remember the power and glory they once had. It's sort of all they got. And finally, Hjaalmarch. A triscale on green. A triscale or a triskelion is a symbol that's been around for ages and has had several meanings. One is that it symbolizes water, air, and earth. Yeah, that works here. There's water everywhere since it is a swamp after all. There is fog, and here's a rock. There's also the idea that symbolizes the cycle of birth, life, and death. And anyone who has played this game knows that there's lots of death in this town. It's also used in Celtic mythology to represent the triple goddess, Maiden, Mother, Crone. So whatever it was that they were thinking when they made this sigil, there's just something eerie about it that matches the eeriness of Morthal. So there you have it. I hope I've scratched any itches I left you with when I first stated that there's not much going on with these sigils in my first video. If you have any comments, there's a whole section dedicated to that below, and if you feel impelled to click that subscribe button, that would be pretty neat too. But you don't have to ring the bell, just live your life for you. Thank you and take care.